welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while since I've said that. You're probably wondering what the hell's going on. I am on my own tonight. I'm flying solo. The podcast is returning, but this is the return of the podcast. I won't always be by myself. Don't worry, this is kind of a one-off. I just want to talk about something. But the podcast will return with Scott and them in the coming... I'm hoping that over the next couple of weeks we should start pumping them back out again as a team. All I can really say is, look, it's just been a busy period for everybody. Everyone's got busy lives. They've got a lot going on. And we've just kind of lost the flow, lost the time to try and put these things together. They take time, they take effort, and they take diaries lining up. And it's not always been able to do that. So the podcast will return with more people than me. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to kick it back off and just do a little solo one. Because actually what I want to talk about today isn't going to take too long. And I just wanted it to, well, we're just going to focus on one subject, and it'd be a bit boring for everybody else if they were sat here listening to me whittle on about the Great North Run, because that's what I want to talk to you guys about, is the Great North Run. And obviously that was a week ago tomorrow actually. So by the time this goes out, hopefully it will be Sunday when I get this out. It'll probably be a week since that race actually happened. It was great fun, but I just really want to just take a step backwards and talk about what happened, the build up almost. I don't know what happened on the day, how I got there, what happened during the race, and what went wrong. Because if you've not seen my video, I was kind of targeting a sub 2 hour, kind of. It wasn't that important, but I kind of felt I should have found that quite easy to do. But we're going to get into why that didn't happen, and then maybe even touch on what's next. So let's go back a week. It was Great North Run Day. I have got some bullet points, so you might see me wiggling the mouse every now and then. If you are watching it, of course, if you're listening, you're like, shut up, Freddy, just get on with it. So let's go back to last Sunday. I mean, from the very start, the whole weekend was a buzz. If we go back to the Friday, actually, we had the Great North Run, or the Great North 5K. Of course, I totally forgot that even happened. So I had the Great North 5K on the Friday evening. That was great. It was fairly relaxed. I forget what time I did. I think it was around the 27 minutes, something like that. But it was fairly relaxed. It was a nice, exciting evening. It was in the evening. There was a few thousand, I think, that did it. It goes around the quayside. Yeah, it was just really, really good fun. There was no pressure on me to do anything. It was quite the opposite. There was more pressure on me to take it easy, to not spend too much energy from my legs before the big one on a Sunday. So that was really good fun. And then on the Saturday morning, I popped into Newcastle again and did the Lees's Park run. So another 5K there, and I forget again. I think that was around a sort of 28 minutes, something like that. So 2 steady away 5Ks. But I will say, jumping forward slightly, that's probably a mistake. Maybe I should have done both of those events. Maybe I should have just picked one and used it as a shakeout. I'm not saying that my legs were tired on race day. I didn't feel tired or anything like that, but I'm sure it had some form of impact for the race itself. And then we go to Sunday, got into Newcastle nice and early. I was there for about 7:30. My wife dropped me off at 7:30 in the car, which was great for me because I could walk down Northumberland Street, have a look at the T-shirt and medal that was on display there. I mean, that's a whole other story, right? The T-shirt and medal. I'm sure you've seen that whole debacle where they actually had the River Wear with Sunderland on the medal for that. Should have been obviously showing Newcastle, Gateshead, South Shields, whatever. Yeah, that was a massive mistake, and I would love to know the backstory to that, the truth. I mean, we've all heard that this artist that created the medal, apparently he likes to put Easter eggs in there or mess around with things, and I wonder actually what damage that's going to do for him moving forward, because who's going to want to use him now if he got it so wrong? I don't know. I mean, I hope it doesn't ruin his livelihood, but what a mistake to make. And I guess ultimately not his mistake. It was whoever checked the medal and signed it off. It was a mistake they made. But anyway, we get dropped off, and I'm not going to go through everything that happened on that day because you can go and watch the video. But essentially, I got there nice and early, looked at the medal, headed into the pub to go and meet up with some friends. I met up with Steve, with Andy, with Mac, with Phil, with Stu. with Sam, with Ben, and there was a lady there, but which I believe was Sam's partner, but I forget, and I apologise. It was either Louise or Laura. I think it was Louise. I think I might have got that totally wrong. I know Laura is Andy's partner. We had a nice little group of us, met up in the pub, and had a good chinwag, and it was nice because I was actually quite nervous on race day, which doesn't often happen with me, but I was on this day. So it was nice to go in there and just settle down, and have a catch up, with some friendly faces, which is awesome. Yeah, and then we all walked over to the start line. There was a couple of us had to go different ways to others, depending on what colour wave you're in. It's depending on what direction you have to go. 'Cause we have to remember there's 60,000 people that attend this event. 60,000. It's enormous. In my opinion, it's too big for the route now, but that's a whole other story. 60,000 people. There was so much energy. There was so much excitement. You had music playing. You had people shouting out on the tannoys. Yeah, it was just really, really good way. And the toilet queue was enormous. Fortunately, they have a urinal area for the gents, so it's kind of that turns over really quick. Sorry, this is probably TMI, but that queue goes down really quite quickly. And then we go to the start line itself, and then again we split up because although a lot of us were in the same colour wave, each colour wave has different pens. Unfortunately for me, Steve decided to take a step back in the pens. He should have been in Orange B. I was in Orange D, and he came back to run with me because Steve actually, in a week's time from now, so 2 weeks from the day, is going to be running at Berlin Marathon. So he didn't want to go too crazy, and he knew that if he was in the pen with Andy and them, that he would have probably got dragged along with them and running at their pace. And I think they all ended around that sort of 1:35 to 1:37 time. So yeah, Steve made the right choice for him to come back and slow down with me. But the event itself, we crossed the line. Actually, you know what time we crossed the line? It was 11:27 we crossed the line. We were due to go at 10:50, so that just shows you with the amount of people that were in front of us in the orange wave. It took us 40 minutes effectively, or maybe it was a bit longer than that. I don't remember. I think it was 10:50. It was about 45 minutes or so that it took us from the time we were meant to cross the line to the time that we actually did. So it wasn't too bad. There was a lot of people having to go like under the fence or through gaps to get to the toilet, because when you're stood in these places for that amount of time, you do need to go to the bathroom, and you're kind of stuck. They need to look at improving the start. I think with that being that many people, I understand why they have to put you in the pen so early, but effectively you can be there for 1, maybe even 2 hours depending on what time you arrive. That's a long time to be stood around before the race. Luckily enough, the weather was being quite kind to us. It was actually quite warm at the start. Me and Steve, I remember talking, and we were a little bit worried that is it going to get too hot, because the sun came out, and I was like, oh crikey. Lucky for us, the sun kind of got covered up with the clouds a little bit, and it was quite breezy. I heard a lot of people saying that it was windy and there was a headwind the whole way. I didn't really notice it. There was a bit of a breeze, which was kind of nice. I guess it was keeping us cool, but I never noticed it being particularly strong to the point that it was slowing me down or anything like that. So yeah, off we go. And I have to say that probably in hindsight went off a little bit quick. The idea was to try and go to around 5-minute 30s per kilometre. I was targeting really a sub 2, which 2 hours is, I believe, like 5:40 per kilometre. So we were going 5:30. It's probably going to end up around the 1 hour 55, something like that. But I have to say that it's a really hard route to pace from the beginning, simply because you start going downhill. And it feels like the first mile or two are pretty much going downhill. So naturally you end up going quicker than you wanted because you're going downhill. And the energy's flowing, you've got your adrenaline going and all of that, and the crowds are there almost straight away. So we did go a little bit hot. I think we were around that sort of 5 minutes. I think the second kilometre, I think we actually got under 5 minutes. Did that have an impact on me later on? It might have done. I'm not sure. I don't think so. But then off we went, and we tried to hit that pace as steady as we can, and it was good. I mean, we chose the left-hand side this time. So those that don't know, when you're at the Great North Run, you go into the start pen, and there's almost like a central, well, there isn't, not like a central reservation, it is a central reservation because we're on a dual carriageway. And the central reservation part, you can go either to the left or to the right of that. And if you go to the right-hand side, you are there's a flyover effectively as you start, or just after you start, and you're either going to go over the flyover or you're going to go under the flyover. And if you go under, you get more of the tunnel action, more of the oggy. Well, last year I went right. This year I decided we'd go left. And then we're going down the flyovers, getting the oggies, and me and Steve are trying to get the crowds going as well, and you're really geeing them up, because the atmosphere was absolutely electric. So many people just screaming your names, because obviously we've all got our names on our bibs, so everyone's getting their name shouted out, and everything else, and it was just such a good atmosphere. But almost that adds to the careful on your pace, right? Because you're getting excited by all these people screaming and whatever else, and it does kind of speed you up without you realizing that you're doing it. And then the race goes on, and the idea for me was every 5k to take on some gels. So I was carrying gels with me. I had high 5 gels, and I had one, I think, SIS, and I had an SIS bar as well, like a gel bar, which I didn't actually end up using. But the idea was every 5k take on some fuel, and at every water stop take on some water, if you know, having a sip and actually pouring it over me as well, making sure that I stay nice and cool. But the water stops I found to be a little bit of a nightmare actually. First of all, anyone that's interested, the only thing that they had on the water stops was water. There was no gels or anything else. You had to carry anything like that yourself, which I actually forgotten that was the case, but yeah, it was water only. Now here's the thing, right? So, and I don't want this to come across like I'm sounding too negative, but with an event the size of this, you're going to get a lot of people that perhaps don't normally enter events. You know, this might be the first time they've done any form of event. They're going straight in there with a half marathon, maybe raising money for charity and all that sort of stuff. But that really meant that they didn't necessarily know the etiquette, if you like, when it comes to water stops. I mean, in my mind, it's always a case of, look, you run through water stops, you grab your water. If you need to walk or you need to stop, you wait till you get past the water stop. You move off to the side where you're not going to get in people's way, and you stop or you walk, whatever it is there. But you really should keep things flowing as much as you can whilst going through those. And I did find quite a few people not suddenly going into a walk, although that was happening. It was more the number of people that would grab a water and stop, and because there's so many of you, all of a sudden you would be smack bang up against them, you know, trying to avoid running into them, and at times not being able to, and just end up crashing into the back of them. So that's one thing I would say is if you haven't done an event like this before, is just try and think about who's behind you and what speed are they running, and yeah, just grab the water, move to the side, and do what you need to do. But the water stops were great, and that was the one thing I would, well, the one thing, I'm going to say lots of things, but the other thing I will say, and this is kind of where my problem started, and it's what people do with that water bottle afterwards. Now, I'm in the habit already of taking what I want from the bottle in terms of drink, and if I do want to pour it over me, I do tend to actually tip the whole thing over me. But if I don't want to tip it over me, particularly if it's early on in the race, I take what I want to drink, I turn the bottle upside down, I tip it all out, and then we throw it off either into the bins that are provided, or if there are none, just onto the side where there's no runners running. But there was a lot of bottles on the floor, and more worryingly, were a lot of bottles on the floor that were full, and some of them, or a lot of them, actually had the lid closed. So if you did stand on it, the water had nowhere to go. It was basically a rock on the floor. But anyway, as we're going, I get to 10k or 5k, probably a little bit ahead of my time. I think I was on for about 27 minutes. I think it was 26:57, something like that. Then we get to 10k, and again, I'm starting to settle in, thinking, okay, this is going quite well for me. I'm probably on for around 155, 157 is where I felt that I was going to be comfortable. And I got to see lots of people on the way, lots of people that were just chatty, people that I knew, people that recognised me. It was really good fun, and lots of people to chat to the whole way. Then I got to what I think was about 12k, but when I look at my Strava, I actually think it might have been about 14, 15k. But the worst thing that could have happened is what I've already mentioned did actually end up happening to me, and that is I'm running along minding my own business, just getting through it, and I found a water bottle on the floor with the lid on, and I landed on it with my stride. So as I'm going along, I hit it, and it rolled my ankle, and it hurt. It did hurt, and I didn't stop, but I then had to slow right down, and a bit of a hobble, then a bit of a walk to make sure it was all right. And it was actually all right. It was a little bit sore, but it wasn't like I didn't pull anything or break anything or anything like that. Apart from my mind, I've got to be really honest about that. And maybe I was a bit too vague when I posted this on Instagram and Facebook. I did put a post out that said, look, I've had a really good day, but it didn't quite go to plan because I twisted my ankle. And I did get messages coming in after I posted that saying, oh, I hope the ankle's okay. And I felt a bit bad. I thought, yeah, you've been too vague in your post there. Think about what you're writing and the message that's putting out to everybody. Because my ankle was actually turned out to be fine, you know, once I tried to get it going again. But the problem was my head went at that point. I got to be honest, I got really frustrated that it even happened, because there were so many water bottles on the floor. That and interestingly, the amount I've had a lot of messages and comments on my post even where people are saying, yeah, that happened to me. I landed on a bottle, or the bottles were particularly bad this year. There were so many of them, but my head just went, is the truth, and I just backed right off. And I guess I was being a bit of a brat, and I just slowed right down and just got, do you know what, bugger this. And I had a good few Ks of walking, and that's what I did. And I'm probably more annoyed with myself than I am with that bottle, because ultimately my ankle's fine. I should have just got straight back in the zone and gone for it. But I think ultimately, I don't think that I was necessarily that bothered, I guess, that it was about that. It wasn't, you know, the whole run wasn't about getting that time. The whole run was about having a good time and having a really enjoy it, you know, having a really enjoyable day, and getting a sub 2 at the same time. You know, that would have been like the cherry on top. And I think because it wasn't my main focus, I just kind of thought, do you know what, sod this, I'm just going to get round. Yeah, and so I just kind of got myself around it, and there were some parts. I think we had about 5k to go. This bit actually did get put into the video. It's 5k to go, and I'm having a little bit of a walk, and there was a lady who was running to the left of me. That I don't know that she was shouting at me or not, but she certainly said it out loud, and it was basically, come on, there's only a part run to go. And she was right, there was only a part run to go. So I started jogging again, and off we went. And this whole time, the crowds are just insane. There is people just screaming, and honest to God, it was so good, so good. Oh, and I got to bump into, very briefly, but I got to bump into Dean and Tasha, which was fantastic. I appreciate a lot of you won't necessarily know who I'm talking about, but Dean and Tasha are people that I've got to know through running, and I don't often get to see them. It's normally at an event. But it's lovely when I do, just to even just say hello and get a high five. So yeah, great to see you guys. And then you come up to near the end, where you think's near the end. I mean, thankfully I've done this run before. I know where the end is, but for a lot of people, they might not, or they might think that they're closer to the finish line than they are. But you start coming towards the end, up in South Shields, or it's near like Lizard Point, I think you call it. Basically the roundabout before the drop down, and the crowds are going absolutely bonkers there. And you do come in a little bit tighter on the road, which makes it even busier and louder, and yeah, really good fun. And just before that, actually, the guys were giving out cups of beer. You could get yourself basically a shot of beer if you wanted to, which I didn't do. I am on 10 months and a couple of weeks of no alcohol as well. Just going to drop that one in there. 10 months and a couple of weeks of no alcohol now, and I'm loving that. I'm really chuffed that I've maintained that soberness, if you like. But anyway, then we come down the sharp bank where you take a left-hand turn, 90-degree left-hand turn, and then you're on what must be the longest bloody finishing straight in the world. It's effectively just over a mile as you've got to go, and that is where the crowds are off the scale. There are people just lining the left and right hand side of that road the whole way down and just screaming. Yeah, screaming, and you hear everybody's name. Like I say, we've all got the bibs. Everybody's name is being shouted out, and it's all you can hear is, "Go on, Freddy," blah blah blah. And that just kept you going. And I got to admit, I did have another little cheeky walk. But this young girl came up next to me and was like, "Come on, it's less than a mile to go. Just keep moving." And I did, and I got back into the flow of it, and off we went. Yeah, and then crossed the line in 2 hours and 2 minutes. Had a really good laugh. Despite what happened, I had a really good laugh. The one thing that I will say, which I actually noticed as it happened, and then looked back at the video, and I noticed it in myself. If you haven't seen that video, go and watch it, or at least just forward it to where I finished the run. Everybody around me is kind of like arms up in the air, celebrating going across that finishing line, and I'm not. And I had to have a real think about this. And I say I thought about it at the time as it happened, but I had to have a think about this afterwards as well. And I wasn't really in a celebratory mood. I had a really good time. But everything, when I look at it, and everything that I felt was just like finishing a normal run. You know, I just stopped my watch and broke down into a walk, and off we go. I didn't really feel that buzz that most people were feeling. And I don't actually know why. I don't know if I was just really pissed off because I wanted that sub 2 and it didn't come. I was only a couple of minutes out. And the truth is, if I didn't walk so much, I would have got it, you know, but I didn't. And I don't know what that was. I need to really kind of consider that. Like, I need to enjoy that finish line more. Like the 10K that I did in Darlow a few weeks back, where I met with Michael and Scott and all the others. I really had a buzz. Yes, I got there. Maybe that's because I got a PB and I got the buzz more from the PB. I don't know. I just was a little bit disappointed in my own reaction to finishing the run itself, which was a real shame. And then I met up with Steve at the end. We didn't actually stay together the whole way. We probably got about halfway together, and it was just so busy. We had a little bit of a gap, and we lost each other effectively. Yeah, there was just so many people. It was really hard to find each other again. But Steve plodded on. I believe he got round in about 1:52, because once he realised that I wasn't with him anymore, he picked up his pace and off he went. But we met again at the finish line, had a quick catch up, found out how our races went, and then went and grabbed some chips from the chip shop, which we thought was going to be madness with the queues, but actually it wasn't. We got them quite quickly, maybe less than sort of 5 or 10 minutes. We were done. Grabbed our chips and then took a walk into South Shields. We didn't hang around at the end. We just got straight into South Shields, where Steve got in his car to go home, and I jumped on the metro. And again, getting out of South Shields wasn't too bad. There was a queue to get on the metro. I waited about 30 minutes from me getting there to actually getting on a train. And the trains were rammed as you would expect them to be. You know, you had to get on there quick if you wanted a seat. I did get a seat. It was standing up for me only. But I think you're on there. I don't know. It was 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. Into Newcastle. Then I got another train from Newcastle home in Northumberland, where my wife picked me up from the station, and job was a good one. So yeah, it was a really good day. I know that the guys that we met in the morning got some really good results. Apart from, I know if you don't follow him, please go and have a look at Swim Bike Run Stu on YouTube. He had a different experience to the rest of us. We need to rename his channel to something like Swim Bike Run Grump Stu, because he got quite grumpy about it. He didn't have a great day. He didn't particularly enjoy it. He did pick up on the route not being the best, and I will say that it's not. The route itself is virtually, or in fact it probably is, all dual carriageway. You know, it's boring. It's a lot of downhill at the beginning and then a lot of what feels like uphill from there out. So it's not an inspiring route if you take all the people away. In fact, if you took all the people away, I'm not sure many would actually do it. And yeah, he didn't have a great day, but I'd go and recommend it. Go and have a listen to see how he got on. But I know that some others had a really good time. I think Ben was like 135, Andy was 136 or 7, I forget. So yeah, so some good results all round. And I'll be back next year. So I have got the Great North Run membership. Again, if you don't know, once you've done it once, you can join the membership, which was about 70 quid, and that gives you you're able to go and enter the run each year for 3 years at normal price, but without going into the ballot. So next year I've got another one in where I don't have to go into the ballot, and will I do it beyond there? Probably, but I'm not going to commit to that now. But I will be back there next year, as long as I'm fit and healthy, and we'll go again. But I think next year I will go with a different attitude, and that's going to be an attitude of the time's absolutely irrelevant. Do you know, I will say that I guess this depends on well, it depends on the day, I guess, but it's so busy. It's so busy. 60,000 people. Admittedly, they're not all in front of you. There's a lot of them behind, but there's a lot of people in front of you and around you, and you are zigzagging and slowing down because there's just, you know, there were quite many times where there was just a wall of people in front of you and you couldn't get past them. You'd have to wait until somebody sped up or slowed down to find a gap. So it's really not the ideal place to go for a PB. And I don't think I will next year. I think next year I'm just going to go and soak it all up. Have a bit more interaction with the crowds. Have a bit more interaction with those around you. If you see someone struggling, help them along, and all that sort of stuff. And really try and enjoy the day and take it for what it is, and that is just a day out with 60,000 friends, having good fun, running from Newcastle to South Shields. And that really is it. I mean, that is my whole experience of the Great North Run for 2025. Another thing I'm going to briefly mention is what is next for me. I've got a challenge coming up, and I don't want to go into too much of the detail of that challenge at the moment. I am putting together a video. The challenge is going to have a bit of a story behind it. There's a reason why I'm doing this challenge, but I will tell you what the challenge is. On the 14th of October, I am going to be running, or attempting to run, 22 Ks every day for 22 days. So yeah, I've got that coming up in October. So I've got to get myself into that mindset now of being able to go out, and that's going to be quite hard for me to do, is go out every day and plod on for 22 Ks for 22 days. Yeah, I'm going to find, I actually think it feels like that's going to probably be the hardest challenge I've done so far. I actually, in my head, feels like that's going to be harder than the 75 miles that I did at Endure 24, which is the hardest thing that I've done so far. Yeah, some ways that feels like it's going to be harder, simply because I'm not on holiday for that 22 days. I'm not able to just do it as and when I want to. I'm having to work, and I'm having to find the time to do it. Again, I'll go through this more in the video that I bring out, but there's going to be all I have to do effectively each day is run 22 Ks. It doesn't matter if I do that in a wanna, if I split that up into 2, 3, even 4 runs if I want to. I won't do that, but I can if I want to. I can, as long as I cover the 22 Ks each day for 22 days, then I've done it, and that's going to be a good challenge. Like I say, I'll mention this. I'll mention it. I'll do a video that tells you why I'm doing that and the story behind it, and hopefully how you can also get involved. And that is either doing 22 Ks on your own somewhere with some friends, or if you wanted to come and run with me, particularly on the weekends when I can actually say I will be here at this time, again, I would love that as well. And don't worry, it's not going to be sub 2 hours of me trying to do 22k or anything daft like that. It's going to be a really nice casual pace. If there's somebody that wants to do it and they're worried about, oh, I can't do it because it will take me 2.5 or 3 hours, don't worry, I got you. If you want to do that, reach out to me, let me know. If you are in the area, I will happily come along and take that long, especially if it's the first time you've run that far. Let me know and you come and join in. I need to have people around me that are going to make sure that I don't hurt myself and I go slow. Anyway, I'm blabbing. I'm going to get off. I've been on here for what must be nearly half an hour, just over half an hour. Christ, I can talk. I hope this makes sense. I hope this whole podcast is worth listening to. I feel like I've been talking a bit quick and I've been blubbering or blabbering or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, hopefully we will get some of these podcasts out again soon. We'll have some more people on here. We're going to get Scott back on. We're going to get Kaylee involved again, and we're going to get Jamie involved again. And we're going to get some more people on as guests like we were doing before. Just consider this as a slumber. Consider it a extended summer break that we've had. Everyone's just been busy getting on with their lives. But we're going to come back with some more regularity to it. We'll get these out. I don't know if it's going to be weekly. It might not be that often, but it might be bi-weekly. We'll see how we get on. But thanks for listening. If you're on your long run, keep going. You've only been into it for just over half an hour, so you've got a little while to go yet. Maybe stick on Running the Red Line podcast or the Momcast, two that I highly recommend. In fact, there has been a Momcast in the last couple of weeks that I might have been on, so go and find that one and have a listen there. Right, I will speak to you soon. Take care.